The quiet hum of the Galactic Empire's border station was broken by a sharp alarm that sliced through the air like a blade. For most of the watch officers, it was the kind of sound they hoped never to hear, the unmistakable tone of an unauthorized hyperspace jump inside restricted space. In the vast black outside the station's armored windows, the familiar, steady starfield twisted and bent, like the universe itself was folding in on one point. Then, with a flash brighter than the surrounding suns, a small vessel snapped into real space. It was barely the size of a courier ship, its hull dark and unmarked. No insignia, no transponder code. No one in the Empire's 1,000 years of recorded encounters had ever seen anything like it. The patrol commander reacted instantly, barking. Orders with the precision of someone who had been trained for moments just like this. All defense wings, lock weapons, surround target. No escape vector allowed. Massive ships, cruisers the length of cities, moved into position, forming an unbreakable wall of firepower around the unknown craft. Inside the command deck, analysts scrambled to scan the vessel, their eyes widening at the results. Its construction was crude. Primitive alloys, low energy output, no sign of advanced shield systems. By all logic, it was harmless, yet it had just emerged from hyperspace directly inside the Empire's most heavily guarded border without triggering a single early warning field. That was impossible. The first hail was sent, the Empire's language transmitted on multiple channels. To everyone's shock, the reply came back almost instantly, in perfectly clear translation. A calm voice, deep and unhurried. "This is the Terran ship Valiant. We seem to have made a navigational error. Stand by while we correct course." The commander stared at the comms officer in disbelief. The tone was wrong.
Ow.
There was no panic, no nervous stammer, no desperate apology. Whoever these Terrans were, they spoke as if being surrounded by the most powerful warships in the galaxy was an inconvenience, not a death sentence. "Terran vessel," the commander said, his voice carrying the practiced weight of authority. "You are trespassing in Imperial territory. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." There was a pause, a brief hiss of static, then the human voice again, acknowledged. "We'll be ready for you. Coffee's fresh, by the way." Da-da. The Valiant, the crew moved without hurry. The captain, a broad-shouldered man with calm eyes and a faint trace of amusement in his expression, checked the ship's readouts while sipping from a battered metal mug. Around him, his crew adjusted systems, sealed non-essential compartments, and ran diagnostics with the casual efficiency of people who had done this 1,000 times before. There was no fear in the air. If anything, there was mild curiosity. "They've got us boxed in tight," said the helmsman, glancing at the massive alien cruisers on the view screen. "Not bad formation work. Little too predictable, though." The captain didn't look up from his screen. "They're not here to impress us. They're here to scare us. The question is, do we let them think it's working?" Minutes later, boarding craft latched onto the Valiant's airlocks. Heavily armored alien soldiers flooded in, weapons raised, expecting resistance or terrified compliance. Instead, they found a spotless, tightly organized ship and a crew waiting politely in the main corridor. "Welcome aboard," the captain said in that same calm tone. "You can leave your weapons holstered. We're not here to start trouble." The lead soldier hesitated, his orders suddenly feeling insufficient for whatever this was. Humans tall, lean, their eyes sharp and unwavering, studied the boarding party with quiet interest. The Empire's soldiers were used to cowed stares, to the flinching fear that came from facing superior power. These humans had none of it. They were escorted off their ship under heavy guard, taken through the vast docking hangars of the border station. The humans looked around, taking in the alien architecture, the massive engineering feats, the shimmering energy fields that shielded entire bays from the vacuum of space. Most species reacted to this with awe or terror. "It's humans," just observed. One of them muttered something to another, a small comment in their own language, and the two chuckled quietly. The alien guards exchanged uneasy glances. The station's commander personally oversaw the transfer to the escort fleet. As the humans were loaded onto a shuttle bound for the capital world, He studied them carefully. Everything about their posture screamed confidence. Not arrogance that was easy to spot in alien diplomats who overestimated themselves, but a deep, quiet certainty, as if they had stood in far worse places than this and survived. The commander had no idea that his unease was the same feeling predators got when they realized the prey was watching them back. Hours later, as the fleet traveled toward the Empire's heart, the human captain sat by the viewport, watching the stars slip past. One of his officers leaned closer. "They'll want to know everything about us." The captain nodded slightly. "And they'll get exactly as much as we want them to have." He sipped his coffee again. Outside, the escort cruisers stayed close, their massive forms like steel, mountains drifting through the void. To the Empire, this was an overwhelming display of control. To the humans, it was just another day in deep space. By the time the fleet neared the glittering, colossal capital world, a planet wrapped in rings of light and orbiting cities, the story of the mysterious Terran ship had already spread across the Empire's information networks. Whispers filled the halls of power, a species that had crossed into Imperial space without fear, without submission. Officials debated in private chambers. Was this ignorance, foolhardiness, or something far more dangerous experience? The fleet finally descended through the capital's atmosphere. The streets below were filled with citizens craning their necks, eager to see the newcomers. The humans stepped out of the shuttle into blinding sunlight, the Imperial Guard lining the plaza. Cameras floated overhead, broadcasting every moment. The humans didn't blink. The captain let his eyes wander over the towering crystalline buildings, hovercraft streams, the alien banners that rippled high above. "Nice place," he said quietly, just loud enough for the closest guard, too. Here, the guard couldn't decide if it was a compliment or a warning. The humans were led toward the Imperial Senate Hall, its colossal doors opening like the jaws of some ancient beast. Inside waited not just the Senate, but the High Council, and unknown to the humans. The first step in a game far bigger than anyone had planned. The Empire believed it had captured a curiosity. The humans knew they had just stepped onto a stage. And somewhere, deep in the captain's mind, a thought was already forming, one that would keep the Empire awake for many nights to come. If they think this is us at our most dangerous, they haven't seen anything yet. The Senate Hall of the Galactic Empire was a marvel in itself, a space so vast it could have swallowed the Valiant 100 times over and still had room to spare. The arched ceiling shimmered with a projection of the stars, slowly rotating, as if the galaxy itself were watching. Each tier of the massive chamber held representatives from countless worlds, their unique features and cultures forming a living mosaic of the Empire's reach. The air was heavy with expectation. It wasn't every day a completely unknown species walked into the very heart of power. The human delegation moved forward without hesitation. Captain Hale, still carrying that same battered metal mug as if it were part of his uniform, led the way, his boots making steady echoes on the polished stone floor. Behind him, 3 officers followed in precise formation, their eyes scanning everything with the same quiet calculation that had unsettled the border guards. Every step they took seemed to defy the unspoken rule of this chamber. Strangers were supposed to be awed, maybe even overwhelmed. The humans were neither. From her elevated podium, High Chancellor Varan studied them with a piercing gaze. She had led first contact negotiations with dozens of species, many of them aggressive, unpredictable, or desperate. But these humans, they were different. There was a weight to them, as if their confidence came from something deeper than arrogance. It was unsettling, though she would never admit that aloud. "Terran delegation," she began, her voice carrying through the chamber with the help of ancient resonance amplifiers. "You have entered Imperial territory without permission, without identification, and without cause. Explain yourselves." The captain didn't miss a beat. "We made a navigational error," he said simply, his tone respectful but completely unshaken. "We have no hostile intent toward your empire." His words were calm, but the undercurrent was clear. "We are not afraid of you." Murmurs rippled. Through the tiers, translation system carried his voice perfectly to every species present. but it couldn't soften the strange ease with which he spoke under the scrutiny of billions. A senator from the southern spiral arm leaned toward her neighbor. "Do you hear it? No groveling. No fear. Either they're fools, or they've seen worse than us." Varaine's expression remained neutral. "Your vessel entered one of the most heavily secured borders in the galaxy without triggering our defense perimeter. That is unusual." She leaned forward slightly. "Was that an accident as well?" Hale met her gaze. "If it wasn't, I'd probably be smart enough not to admit it." A few senators chuckled. The sound quickly stifled when Varaine's eyes swept over them. The Chancellor straightened. "You will remain here until the Council decides your fate. You will be given quarters under observation. You will answer our word." "Questions fully. Understood," Hale said. He didn't look rattled. In fact, if anyone was watching closely, they'd notice a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. They were escorted out of the chamber by the Imperial Guard. It was the humans who seemed to be doing most of the observing. Every hallway, every piece of technology, every protocol, they studied it all with the patience of predators learning the habits of their prey. The guards didn't know it yet, but each step they took was being mentally recorded, mapped, and analyzed. The quarters assigned to them were spacious by human standards, designed to impress guests from far-off worlds. Towering windows displayed the glittering cityscape of the capital, its layered platforms stacked like a mountain of light. The moment the guards left, Lieutenant Sato moved to the window, scanning the skyline. "Defense towers at 3-kilometer intervals," she murmured. "Energy signatures match their shipyard arrays. If they wanted to lock this place down, they could do it in seconds." "Let them think they could," Hal replied, setting his mug down on the sleek black table. "We've been in tighter spots." Meanwhile, in a secure chamber deep within the Senate complex, the High Council convened. The room was shielded from all forms of surveillance, its walls lined with anti-espionage wards, older than the Empire itself. Around the curved table, leaders debated the Terran presence. "They are a primitive species by our scans." One admiral insisted, his scales catching the dim light. "Low energy output, basic metallurgy, no advanced shielding. We could crush them without effort." "Then why haven't they shown fear?" countered another. "Why do they walk into this hall as if they have already faced an empire before?" "Perhaps they have," said Varaine quietly. Her words silenced the room. She had seen enough in their body language to know they weren't bluffing. These humans carried themselves like survivors, not just of battles, but of entire wars. Wars that left a mark deeper than any technology could measure. Back in their quarters, the humans had already begun a different kind of operation. Lieutenant Sato was mapping possible escape routes based on the building's structural layout, and Torres was discreetly scanning the energy readings of nearby systems, the small device disguised as a personal communicator. Every movement was deliberate, every conversation calculated. That night, as the alien city's lights shimmered far below, Captain Hale stood at the window, watching the traffic streams in the sky. "They think they're in control," he said. "Softly, they're not," Sato replied. "No," Hale agreed, his gaze hardening. "But we'll let them keep believing it, for now." And somewhere far above the capital, a faint distortion flickered in the void, a ripple in space that could have been just another passing anomaly. But it wasn't. It was the first hint of something the Empire had no idea was coming. Morning on the Imperial capital was a spectacle in itself. The artificial sun rose slowly over the city's upper platforms, sending streaks of gold light through towering spires and across rivers of sky traffic. From their quarters, the human delegation could see it all: the grandeur, the precision, the absolute order of a civilization that had dominated this part of the galaxy for millennia. To most visitors, this view was overwhelming. To the humans, it was reconnaissance. Captain Hale stood by the window, sipping from his dented metal mug as if he were watching a quiet sunrise back on Earth. Sato was seated at the table with a datapad, her fingers flicking through schematics she wasn't supposed to have. Torres was leaning back in his chair, eyes half closed, listening not to the silence, but to the faint hum of the building's internal systems. They've got triple-layered shielding on this level, Torres murmured. Not for defense. Containment. Sato didn't look up. Makes sense? We're not guests. We're high-value variables they don't understand yet. The knock at the door was soft, but precise. 2 Imperial guards entered, flanking a tall figure in flowing silver robes. An advisor to High Chancellor Varan. His skin shimmered faintly, as if embedded with threads of crystal. The council requests your presence for a private session, he announced. Hale nodded casually. Lead the way. The private chamber was smaller than the Senate Hall, but still carried the weight of power. The curved walls displayed a slowly shifting holographic map of the galaxy, each sector glowing with the colors of imperial jurisdiction. Varane sat at the head of the table, flanked by her most trusted military and intelligence officials. Captain Hale, she began, her voice calm but edged with curiosity. Our scans of your vessel show peculiarities. Your propulsion system is unlike any we have cataloged. Its energy signature doesn't match its apparent size. Care to explain? Hale leaned back slightly in his chair. It gets us where we need to go. That's not an answer, the admiral to her left snapped. Hale met his glare with a faint smile. It's the only one you're getting. There was a long silence. The Empire wasn't used to being denied. Varan steepled her fingers. You are either very brave or very foolish. The Empire does not take kindly to secrets. And yet, Hal said, still calm, you've invited us here instead of destroying us at the border. Which means you're just as curious about us as we are about you. The room went still again. It was a small thing, but the balance had shifted. One of the intelligence directors leaned forward. We could take your ship apart piece by piece. Learn everything about you in a matter of days. Hale didn't flinch. You could try, but you wouldn't like the result. Well, that was the moment Varane realized something dangerous these humans weren't bluffing. Whatever they were hiding. It wasn't technological superiority. It was something deeper. Something that came from experience. From surviving threats far worse than the Empire could imagine, the meeting ended without a resolution, but the effect lingered. Whispers spread through the upper tiers of government. Guards exchanged rumors. In hushed tones, senators speculated about the Terran's homeworld, wondering if it was some hidden power in the galactic shadows. Back in their quarters, Sato and Torres were reviewing a captured feed from the meeting room. One, they're hidden. Devices had managed to intercept without tripping any alarms. They're divided, Sato said, scrolling through facial recognition data. Half of them want to crack us open, the other half want to recruit us. That's when they're most dangerous, Hale replied. Confusion leads to overreach, and overreach leads to mistakes. That night, the ripple in space above. The capital appeared again, stronger this time. Invisible to the Empire's standard sensors, it pulsed like a heartbeat, something vast and patient. Watching from the dark, the next day began like any other in the Imperial capital, or at least it looked that way to the casual observer. Skylanes shimmered with orderly traffic. Markets buzzed with alien chatter. The scent of exotic spices and burning plasma drifted from street stalls. But deep inside the Empire's central security hub, something was going wrong. One of the junior analysts frowned at his console. Sir, I'm reading fluctuations in the planetary defense grid. Nothing serious, but unusual. His supervisor waved it off. Solar flare interference. It happens. The junior officer hesitated. Except, it's not solar activity. The fluctuations are patterned. The pattern was faint, so faint the Empire's own algorithms dismissed it as noise. But if someone knew exactly where to look, they'd see the truth. The humans had been mapping the entire defense network since the moment they arrived. Captain. Hale was leaning against the corner of their quarters, sipping coffee from his dented mug, as Sato projected a rotating hologram of the Empire's planetary defenses in midair. They have no idea we're inside, Sato said, her voice low but amused. We've been in their comm relays for 2 days now. Their encryption is good, but their redundancy protocols are sloppy. They didn't design these systems for an enemy that could hide inside the noise. Torres grinned. So, What's the plan? We pull the plug now? Hale shook his head. Not yet. Let them think they're in control a little longer. People who think they're in control make predictable moves. Predictable moves are easy. To counter, while the humans plotted in shadows, the Empire began its own dance. High Chancellor Varan ordered a series of friendly military exercises near the humans' docking site. Imperial fleets drifted in formation, bristling with weapons, but never locking them. The message was subtle. We are watching you. We are strong. Hale and his crew treated it like background noise. They visited the city's markets, strolled through art galleries, even took a guided tour of the Imperial archives. Their calm wasn't just for show, it was a weapon. Every Imperial officer who saw them acting without fear felt the smallest crack in their certainty. The turning point came 3 nights later, when a sealed data packet arrived for Varane. Inside was a single encrypted file addressed from an unknown source. When her intelligence team finally decrypted it, they found something shocking. A complete, detailed log of the Empire's last 50 covert operations, some so classified that even Varane herself had never seen them. And at the very bottom of the file was a simple text line in Galactic standard. Your secrets are safe. For now, Terran liaison Varan stared at the words for a long moment. No species had ever breached the Empire's deep vaults. The thought that these strange newcomers could and then leave without exploiting it was both terrifying and infuriating, but fear is rarely admitted openly in the Imperial Council. Instead, whispers began to circulate. Some argued that the humans were a potential ally too valuable to antagonize. Others called for their immediate elimination before they became a threat. Hale knew the split was coming. He had seen it before, in other governments, other systems. Divide the decision-makers, and you don't need to fight them. They'll fight themselves. Later that night, from the balcony of their quarters, Hale looked up at the faint pulse in the sky, that ripple in space, visible only to human eyes. And instruments. They're getting nervous, Torres said quietly. Good, Hal replied. Nervous people make mistakes. Far above the capital, in that ripple of distorted space, something stirred, as if answering Hale's words. The Empire struck at dawn. No warning, no diplomatic message, just a shimmering wave of blue energy that rolled through the humans' docking bay. Designed to shut down every system in seconds, it was a surgical strike, precise enough to disable. Without destroying, in theory, the humans would be left blind, deaf, and helpless. Except when the haze of the pulse cleared. The Terran ship still hummed quietly, lights steady, engines warm. On the observation deck of the Imperial flagship, Admiral Keevel's mandibles clicked in disbelief. How? He hissed. The Pulse had shut down warships 3 times the size of this human vessel during tests. Inside the ship, Captain Hale and his crew didn't even glance at the blinking red alert from the Empire. Torres poured herself another cup of coffee. Sato adjusted a calibration on her console as if nothing had happened. They're watching us right now, Ellie said, voice calm, trying to figure out why we're still standing. And Sato asked. They won't figure it out, Hale said, because they're looking for something complicated. But the fix was simple, too simple for them to even imagine. While the Empire scrambled, a second, larger fleet slipped into orbit, forming an unmistakable blockade. Dozens of ships hung in perfect formation, weapons hot. From the surface, it looked like the capital's sun had sprouted a crown of steel. Hi. Chancellor Varane watched the feed from her palace tower. I want them disarmed, she ordered. If they resist, we escalate. The docking bay shook as armored boarding craft latched onto the human's hull. Metal screeched as the Empire's elite Marines cut their way in. They expected resistance. They expected shouts, weapons fire, maybe even panicked surrender. Instead, they found the humans sitting around the main table, quietly eating breakfast. One Marine hesitated, weapon half raised. Hale didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just looked at the squad leader and said, "You've got about 10 seconds before your comms cut out." The Marine's translator relayed the words, and then, right on cue, the Marine's helmet comes. went dead. Panic rippled through the squad. Your encryption keys, Hale continued, are a joke. Don't. In your boarding craft, they've been locked in place since you landed. You can leave. But only when I decide you can. The Marines fell back, not from fear of weapons, but from the realization that they were completely outmatched, not in brute force, but in control. From the observation deck above, Admiral Cavall slammed a claw against the railing. This is impossible. They're just one ship, one crew. But by then, the humans had already taken the next step. Every Imperial ship in the blockade began receiving false commands from their own command center, orders to shift position. Shields, reroute power. In the space of 3 minutes, the entire formation unraveled into chaos. On the human ship, Sato's hands danced over the console. They're starting to realize these commands aren't theirs. Too late, Hale said. Now they know what it feels like to have someone else pulling the strings. And then, as suddenly as it began, the humans stopped. Systems went quiet. Ships froze in place. The Empire's forces were left intact, but humiliated. Varen's voice came through the Imperial fleet channels, sharp as a blade. Enough. Bring me their captain now. Hall stood, finally looking serious. Guess we're getting invited. To the palace, he said. The Imperial Palace was a fortress of obsidian and silver, rising above the city like a jagged crown. Its grand audience chamber could fit a Terran warship inside, with soaring arches and banners stitched in gold, but for all its magnificence, the silence inside was heavy, tense. Every alien eye in the chamber was locked on the lone human walking down the marble aisle. Captain. Hale's boots echoed against the stone. He didn't bow. He didn't even slow. Go. The High Chancellor's throne sat high upon a stepped platform, flanked by armed guards in ceremonial armor. Her gaze was cold, calculating the eyes of someone who had ruled long enough to crush entire civilizations without hesitation. You stand in the heart of the Empire, Varen said, her voice amplified through hidden speakers. You have trespassed in our territory, disrupted our fleets, and humiliated our military. Give me one reason why I should not have you executed where you stand. Hale stopped at the base of the steps, looking up at her without flinching. Because, Chancellor, killing me would be the most expensive mistake your empire has ever made. Gasps rippled through the assembled court. Varen leaned forward slightly, intrigued despite herself. Explain. You've already learned. One thing about humans, Hale said. We don't scare easily. What you haven't learned is what happens when you push us too far. We didn't come here looking for a fight, but if you start one, we finish it, and we don't stop until the threat is gone. A low murmur spread among the advisors. Some scoffed, and others shifted uncomfortably. Varen's eyes narrowed. Bluffing. One ship, one crew, and you think you can threaten the might of the Galactic Empire. Hale allowed himself the faintest smile. You're thinking in numbers. We think in solutions. The difference between us and you, Chancellor, is that we're not afraid to take the one option everyone else considers impossible. That's how we got this far. That's how we're still standing. He took one slow step closer, and the guards' hands twitched toward their weapons. If you kill me, the rest of my people will come. They'll come not because you're powerful, but because you tried to erase us. And when they do, you'll see what it's like to face a species that treats the impossible like a weekend project. For a long moment, Varen said nothing. The only sound was the hum of the chambers. Shields. Then she stood, her towering frame casting a shadow that swallowed the steps between them. You are arrogant, she said slowly, but you are interesting, and perhaps more dangerous than I thought. Hale met her gaze evenly. The feelings. Mutual. Varen's mandibles clicked in a subtle gesture of amusement. Very well, you will not be executed. Not today. But you will leave our territory at once. And if you return without invitation, I will not be so merciful. Hola gave a small nod. Fair enough. But remember, Chancellor, if we meet again, it won't be by mistake. As he turned to leave, the court watched in uneasy silence. The human ship departed the capital's orbit within the hour. slipping back into the blackness of space. But on the Imperial flagship, Admiral Cavall stood staring at the empty sensor. Readouts long after they were gone, because deep down he knew the humans would be back. Next time it wouldn't be an accident.